Israel Shahak, Jewish history, Jewish religion, the weight of 3,000 years. For understanding the politics in Israel and from Israel to all the Middle East. Contents. Chapter 1, A Closed Utopia, interrogation mark. Chapter 2, Prejudice and Prevarication. Chapter 3, Orthodoxy and Interpretation. Chapter 4, The Weight of History. Chapter 5, The Laws Against Non-Jews. Chapter 6, Political Consequences. Chapter 1, A Closed Utopia. Quote from Hecataeus of Miletus, from Herodotus. I write here what I think is true, for the stories of the Greeks are numerous, and in my opinion ridiculous. From a traditional paraphrase of a passage of Aristotle's Ethics, Amicus Plato sed magis amica veritas. Plato is a friend, but truth is a greater friend. And from Spinoza, in a free state, every man can think what he wants and say what he thinks. End of quote. This book, although written in English and addressed to people living outside the state of Israel, is in a way a continuation of my political activities as an Israeli Jew. Those activities began in 1965-66 with a protest which caused a considerable scandal at the time. I had personally witnessed an ultra-religious Jew refuse to allow his phone to be used on the Sabbath in order to call an ambulance for a non-Jew who happened to have collapsed in his Jerusalem neighborhood. Instead of simply publishing the incident in the press, I asked for a meeting with the members of the Rabbinical Court of Jerusalem, which is composed of rabbis nominated by the State of Israel. I asked them whether such behavior was consistent with their interpretation of the Jewish religion. They answered that the Jew in question had behaved correctly, indeed piously, and backed their statement by referring me to a passage in an authoritative compendium of Talmudic laws written in this century. I reported the incident to the main Hebrew daily, Haaretz, whose publication of the story caused a media scandal. The results of the scandal were, for me, rather negative. Neither the Israeli nor the diaspora rabbinical authorities ever reversed their ruling that a Jew should not violate the Sabbath in order to save the life of a Gentile. They added much sanctimonious twaddle to the effect that if the consequence of such an act puts Jews in danger, the violation of the Sabbath is permitted for their sake. It became apparent to me, as drawing on knowledge acquired in my youth, I began to study the Talmudic laws governing the relations between Jews and non-Jews, that neither Zionism, including its seemingly secular part, nor Israeli politics since the inception of the State of Israel, nor particularly the policies of the Jewish supporters of Israel in the diaspora, could be understood unless the deeper influence of those laws and the worldview which they both create and express is taken into account. The actual policies Israel pursued after the Six-Day War, and in particular the apartheid character of the Israeli regime in the occupied territories and the attitude of the majority of Jews to the issue of the rights of the Palestinians, even in the abstract, have merely strengthened this conviction. By making this statement, I am not trying to ignore the political or strategic considerations which may have also influenced the rulers of Israel. I am merely saying that actual politics is an interaction between realistic considerations, whether valid or mistaken, whether moral or immoral, in my view, and ideological influences. The latter tend to be more influential the less they are discussed and dragged into the light. Any form of racism, discrimination, and xenophobia becomes more potent and politically influential if it is taken for granted by the society which indulges in it. This is especially so if its discussion is prohibited, either formally or by tacit agreement. When racism, discrimination, and xenophobia is prevalent among Jews and directed against non-Jews, being fueled by religious motivations, it is like its opposite case, that of anti-Semitism, and its religious motivations. Today, however, while the second is being discussed, the very existence of the first is generally ignored, more outside Israel than within it.